fam, what's going on my super fam? So this is going to be like the very first time that I actually do a kind of like a face reveal basically on a video, but well, that's not the whole point of the video, right? Because you're here to basically look into one of the most important questions of every single patch, which is gonna be looking into which is going to be the best choice for you to pull in patch 4.5. Because yes, there are quite a number of very good characters coming, and I know that's going to be a little bit of a trouble for most of us, especially if you haven't really got many characters on your account currently. Now, Chiori is the queen of fashion design. Well, I'm pretty sure you guys have already seen like her animations and everything in patch 4.5 livestream. And I have to say, it's overall, I do really like her personality because she has that very confident style of not giving a crap about what other people think. And yes, overall her attack animations is really nice looking too, so I'll give her credit on that. Now, we already know some of her skills and kit because it was introduced in patch 4.5 livestream. However, overall, I really do have to say this is that I just feel for now, Chiori is just going to be a better version of Albedo. Now, how good is she specifically? Time will tell. For they're basically a week away until her official release for us to know exactly. Her E skill basically summons a lovely doll onto a field and helps you, doing off-field geo damage. She does have the ability to summon another one, therefore there are 2 dolls being available on the field, which does allow Chiori to do a lot more damage for your team too. Now that does require your team to have kind of like another geo character that have access to a setting geo construct in the game. However, that does goes for most of the geo character, especially, I believe that she's going to be using alongside with Itto most of the time. Therefore, it wouldn't really be too much of an issue for you to be worrying whether or not she has a double doll on the field all the time. As for burst, it is rather pretty simple because, well, you just cast her burst and then she's just going to basically do geo damage based on her attack and defense stats that she currently has. Some of the more interesting part of her kit would definitely comes down to her passive talent. As you can see, she does have the ability to basically become say geo kuching. How many kuchings are going to be here in the game, guys? Come on, how reverse. Do something better. But while they do kind of mix things up a little bit is that whenever you press her E skill again, she does switch to your next character in the roster. Now on surface, this idea sounds pretty cool, but personally guys, I don't think it's that good. Like, Genshin Impact is already a game where you can switch character fast enough. Like changing 0.5 second earlier in mid-air to do another plunging attack, I don't really see too much of a usage into that. The only other real good thing that comes with it is that she does give you the ability to have her doll attacking alongside with you up to 2 times so that you're able to deal more damage off of it. Or if you want to have her kind of like a DPS gameplay, then first you just cast the E skill and then you press a normal attack again. Then that would give her a Geo Infusion mode where you can, play around with a DPS Chiori here and there. And then her second passive talent does allow her to have more Geo damage after your party members create Geo construct, so that's decently fine. Her world ability is quite unique in that if you have a party member that is wearing another outfit that they have, or they're on the glider other than the basic one, your whole team will get a movement speed increase of 10%. Obviously, this only applies in world exploration and does not apply into any kind of domain, so that's just a fun thing to have. So that's, guys, is basically the overall skills and kits of Chiori. I'd say, as you can have seen, it's quite similar to how Albedo is, because well, now other than you having to worry about having 1 flower on the field, you can have up to 2 flower on the field, and you don't really have to worry about it breaking because Albedo E skill does break. So overall, on hindsight, my prediction is that she's going to be quite better than Albedo. So basically, Chiori is going to be the Albedo replacement in any of the team that you are using him. Especially I would say on Itto team right now, because she is a Geo character that really love to work in a specific Geo team unlike Navia. Or well, if you already have Albedo and you love Chiori, you can pull her anyway, then technically speaking, Chiori and Albedo can work on the same team because yeah, why not? You're having more sub DPS power anyway, right? And well, now we have Itto. So he has been out for quite a while now, and yes, he is considered to be some of the few Geo DPSs out there we have in the game. Other than that, it's gonna be like Navia or Noel, or if you're still using Ningguang as your Geo DPS, then that is that. But yes, I think the whole point of Itto being here on the ban is because we have Chiori, right? Because I do feel that Chiori is a perfect character to be using on Itto's specific team. So generally speaking, if you're deciding to be pulling for Itto, you're probably going to be trying to pull for Chiori anyway. Now here's the thing with Itto is that basically his power level is technically the same as he has always been. There's not too much update to his build and stuff. Now there has already been a lot of artifacts that comes to the game, but ever since a Bullet Dream is here, it's still undeniably the best artifacts set for Itto. Don't judge my Itto, it's not entirely built, but overall my point is that there isn't too much changes that has been done to him, so his power level is still technically the same as his always was, or in other words, his overall DPS power is basically okay, and you're still going to be technically able to use him however you want. Basically a preference character most of the time. And yes, which is where Chiori comes in to help him a little bit more in terms of his, team build as well, because most likely she's going to be swapping out in Albedo's place. However, there is a character that has been introduced, which is Furina, who helps him a lot too in terms of his team building nowadays. Now, for Furina, she does allow him to have a lot more attacking power. However, the caveat is that you technically want to have a Goro at a C4 at the very least in order to have access to healing capability, so that, Furina HP decrease on your team doesn't technically kill you in the long term, or, if you don't have a Goro, another Bennett is like technically a must-have here in your account. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit hard for your Itto team to actually function really well. Obviously, guys, if you already have planning to have Itto, you do want to invest into Goro, which is, I believe, it's going to be a not that hard of a thing, because Goro is going to be a character most likely coming on Itto banner, because if it's not going to be on Itto's banner, then where the hell is he going to be, right? Therefore, this is a perfect banner for you to try and grab Itto if you're someone who really likes him. However, it does cost you quite a lot of pulls, because technically speaking, you're trying to get two characters on the same banner face, which is Chiori and Itto at the same time. Itto constellation is fine. I'd say his C1 and C2s are rather pretty good stopping points if you do want to invest into his constellations. Overall, obviously, C6 is a really good thing for Itto to have, but most of us aren't going to be having a C6 character anyway, so overall, constellation wise, if you're really like Itto, C1 and C2 is a really good stopping point. Alright, now I just want to quickly showcase like one of the current team for Itto that I feel that is doing quite well. Obviously, Albedo is going to be most likely replaced with Chiori, and my Goro is currently on a C6 level, so you do probably going to have to invest a little bit here. But overall, should be doing pretty fine from what I suspect. Alright. Okay. Okay. Alright. God, my energy recharge is rushing this team. Right, so like the most important part of this team is kind of like basically energy recharge level. If you're lacking that a little bit, that's gonna take a lot more time than usual. So my Itto really isn't truly optimized just yet, because well, I don't really invest too much into my Itto. But overall, I do feel like this is going to be a team that performs quite a lot better for Itto at this point in time. It just kind of sucks that we don't really have a whole team healer for Furina to make use of her E skill to the maximum benefit here at this point in time, because we do have to rely on Goro. Other than that, guys, if it's, not going to be a Furina on his team, then I believe that Itto technically don't really have any update to his team unless Chiori is on your account, and basically most of the time he's going to be having another Bennett here to maximize attack power, as well as Goro's here to increase his defense as well, which is really nice. And then on the other side, there's going to be Chiori, and basically your health on this team is going to be a pretty good thing too. So that's for you to decide on Itto. Neuvillette. What you want me to say? What else do you want me to say? What else do I have to talk about? Neuvillette that you want to hear that you haven't already heard of him. To sum everything up, if you're feeling like you're lacking in a character that do good damage, get Neuvillette. Well, it's funny how at first when I only heard of Neuvillette and only see its gameplay through the live stream of patch 4.1, I didn't really think that Neuvillette was this powerful. But my oh my, yes. Right now, and I don't know when, there's going to be another character that's going to take his slot. Don't know if that's going to be the Knave who gets to do it, but he is literally the best hyper carry you have in the game right now. It's just so easy to play with him. I don't really need to show you that much gameplay as well. I think the biggest question right now most of you would be wondering is whether or not you should be pulling for his weapon or it's going to be his C1, which is going to be a pretty good question. So basically, let's have a look at his weapon once again because it is a pretty powerful weapon, giving you 88% crit damage, HP increase, you know, charge attack, all of that. Well, yes, it is a signature weapon of Neuvillette. But the also good thing is that if you do get this weapon, you can also use it on any of your other DPS Catalyst users as well. So overall, this weapon is really nice to have on your account, regardless if you're going to be having Neuvillette or not. But what does his C1 do is that one of the most important thing is he gets resistance to interruption whenever he uses charge attack, which is very, very good. So that technically speaking, you don't really need a shield whenever you're using Neuvillette. But what it also does is that whenever he takes the field, he obtains 1 stack of past Draconic Glory. So to put it in simple terms, guys, Neuvillette will basically have that 160% charge attack damage bonus to be on all the time, whereas if he doesn't have his C1, most of the time it's going to be on 125% stack. So regarding Neuvillette's weapon or his C1, technically speaking, obviously it's going to go down to your choice. But personally, if I had to choose, I would be considering his weapon a lot more than his C1 because from my experience, it does bring him quite a lot more values. Because here's the thing, his C1, one of the things that helps him a lot is going to be his resistance to interruption. However, you can still actually avoid getting hit with Neuvillette at C0 without having a shield as well, right? I use my Neuvillette team without Zhongli all the time. Usually how I use my personal Neuvillette teams, I have him on, Furina, Nahida and Kuki Shinobu, kind of like a Hyper Bloom team. And basically, since Neuvillette is such a powerful character already, you can mostly clear out many of the enemies already without having too much about getting interrupted during your charge attack. Or if you want another team, then definitely, Neuvillette's Electro Charge team is still one of the best out there. Obviously, some of the team I'm using right now is very, very expensive, and Yaimiko can be switched with a Fischl if you want to, but since I do have a high constellation Yaimiko, I usually just have a Yai on Neuvillette's team for Electro Charge. So overall, some of these teams are just already very, very powerful. You don't need to invest too much into, his constellations, just to have basically half of the values of getting that, one more stack for his passive talent. Rather than that, if you can, just go ahead and pull for his weapon. Moving on, we have an interesting character to discuss here, Kazuha. Now, when was the last time his banner rerun was? I can't remember. If I do remember, I'll put it on screen here, but I believe it's been a while, guys. However, there has been quite a lot of things that changes ever since the last time Kazuha has returned, and now I believe that there are a couple of things that you would like to know honestly about Kazuha. Is that one of the biggest things I would have to say right now for me personally, I would say, is that Kazuha ranking is decreasing quite a bit in terms of his specific value. Like in the past, basically, most of the team would really love and would kind of require for you to have Kazuha on their team. However, especially nowadays in the current meta, I believe that there has been less and lesser teams that would require you to have him specifically in order for the team to run well. So in other words, he is in quite a bit of competition, especially, ever since Furina, right? One important thing is that Kazuha is an anemo character and he does not work too well in, Dendro reaction teams. While if you want, you can still have him in, Hyper Bloom team here and there, and he can still help you do a bit of damage, helping your Electro and Hydro character to do more, and sometimes he does help you to trigger Hyper Bloom specifically based on his EM counts. But ever since Furina arrived, and as we've known, Furina is a character that, technically is a character that buffs very, very well and, on par and sometimes even better than Kazuha, depending on obviously your build and your investment. But she is a Hydro character and therefore she fits absolutely well in Dendro meta teams, and yes, as we have discussed, Dendro teams are the majority of the best team we have right now in Genshin Impact. Therefore, it is one of a big thing that you would like to consider Kazuha. I'm not saying that Kazuha is bad in any way. Everything that he does really well, absolutely fantastically, you can still have him and he will still do the job for you. But in terms of whether or not, he's kind of like a must pull or not, his values has been decreasing a bit. However, that is if he has C0. Now, if you're planning to pull for his constellation, then that's actually another consideration, because his C2 is still one of the best in the game and you still do have a lot of value off of it. So if you're pulling for his constellation, then yes, by all means, his C2 is still very powerful, guys. But I just really want to point out in terms of his value specifically, because if you're really looking into it, guys, actually there are only a few teams that would really require to have Kazuha at this point in time, and I would say first of all is going to be Ganyu Melt. Running alongside with Shanha, Bennett and Kazuha, a little bit of a hard team to play around with if you're not really experienced, but this is still a pretty much meta teams, do really, really well and very high numbers as you can see for Ganyu. Or Child International cannot function without Kazuha. So yes, if you're into Child International, and yes, it is still one of, if not the best team in the game, right? Then Kazuha is going to be a must-have on Child International. Or Ayaka's Freeze. Now, used to have specifically Kokomi and Kazuha. However, in recent days, I usually specifically use it alongside with Furina and Jean, and I'd say, it isn't really too much of a difference, but it is kind of like a variations of Ayaka Freeze team that you can run alongside. So once again, Kazuha is not technically a must-have on this specific team. Mono Hydro is going to be really loving Kazuha as well. This is a very invested team, guys. One of, if not the best team right now we have in the game too. Yes, it is very expensive. You don't really have to always have this on your account, but if you do, then yeah, Kazuha is always going to be an important character. Yeah, well, yeah, if you want, like Neuvillette can function with Kazuha, but as I've mentioned before, I usually run my Neuvillette, in the Hyper Green team, and that does really well as well. Most of us do have Nahida. If you don't have Kazuha, you technically can do with a Neuvillette team without Kazuha, right? So as you can see, we don't really have too many teams that with Kazuha right now. So it's not really that of a must pull in terms of Kazuha. It's still a very good character though, that's my point is, but it is going to be your decision or not to pull for Kazuha at this point in time, because we do have a lot of good character in the game that you can make your decision upon. And so guys, basically those are my staying on the characters that we have at this point in time. Obviously, we know I've discussed that Neuvillette is the most important character you want to have right now in your account if you feel like your account is lacking in terms of DPS wise, or a very powerful character to carry out most of the content in the game. If you have Neuvillette, he's going to clear everything for you. And then obviously right after that, even though I talk a little bit about Kazuha in there, but he is still on the second slot in terms of one of the best characters to pull on this banner phase if you are deciding to pull for him. After that, yeah, it's going to be both Itto and Chiori. If you're getting Chiori, you might want to have Itto as well, because Chiori technically works very well in a mono Geo teams, or Geo team base. But in terms of other sub DPS capability, if you want to use her on the other teams, you can, because she is a sub DPS, but she's not going to be as good as some other sub DPS that we've already had in the game right now, like Furina, Nahida, some of those characters you already know, right? So guys, those are everything I have to say regarding those characters at this point in time. If you do have any questions, leave it down in the comment section, and I or some other lovely Genshin player will get to you there. If you really did enjoy the video, or you love, this new kind of videos that I make in terms of I show my face, do give me feedback on how you like it to be, and obviously I'll improve my content a lot better. If you're new, guys, don't forget to subscribe. I really appreciate you guys sticking with me until this part of the video, guys. And with that, I wish you a super day, and I'll catch you on my next video.